Let's talk some inventory numbers, because all we hear about in the media is there's no inventory, buyers are fighting for properties, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that is correct. And that is correct in most areas, but it still depends on price point, and certain pockets have inventory squeezes where others do not. Where we are seeing the greatest inventory squeeze in the South Bay, at least from the areas I like to cover on the blog, we're seeing the greatest inventory squeeze on the Palos Verdes Peninsula. And you're seeing squeezes by the beach in Redondo, Hermosa, and Manhattan. Hermosa, not so much, but Redondo Beach and Manhattan, although it's not record inventory squeezes that we are seeing here in Palos Verdes. So let's look at the numbers. Starting with Palos Verdes Estates, at the end of January, we saw 38 active listings. That was the second lowest number of active listings in Palos Verdes Estates ever. So that shows you kind of the squeeze that we're seeing on the hill. And for PVE, second lowest inventory at the end of January ever. And I'm not talking about in January's looking back. I'm talking about any month ever on the MLS. Rancho Palos Verdes, 60 active listings at the end of January 2021. Not a record low, but Rancho Palos Verdes active listings rarely dip below 100. They have multiple times in the past, but they rarely dip below 100 RPV at 60. So not 95 active listings, not 98. We are at 60 active listings when we rarely dip below 100 in Rancho Palos Verdes. That's an inventory squeeze. That makes it tough on buyers. Moving on finally to Rolling Hills Estates. I'm not going to cover Behind the Gates because it's just too small of a city and the inventory levels vary widely. We can cover that another time, but Rolling Hills Estates, 13 active listings at the end of January. That is an all-time record low. We've never seen Rolling Hills Estates with lower inventory ever, and that is a market that typically has a range of 20 to 50 homes on the market. If you want to kind of get some perspective, 20 to 50 homes is a range normally. 13 active listings, Rolling Hills Estates, all-time record low. Moving on to the beaches, Redondo Beach, 92 active listings at the end of January, not a record low. But the typical range for Redondo Beach trends between about 80 and 180 active listings. They're at 92. Definitely an inventory squeeze, definitely lower inventory than normal. And so buyers are having to duke it out there. Hermosa Beach, 53 active listings at the end of January 2021. That's kind of a normal level. In fact, we've seen 53 and ranges around 53 for the better part of the last decade in Hermosa Beach. Inventory levels in Hermosa Beach, nothing out of the ordinary there. Interesting. It's a small city. Maybe that has some effect. Maybe because there are, big condo complexes, big townhome complexes. I'm not sure, but Hermosa's not feeling the inventory squeeze like everywhere else for the most part. And then lastly, Manhattan Beach, 90 active listings at the end of January. That is a low number for Manhattan Beach, but not a record. It has been much lower in Manhattan Beach in the past. And for perspective, there was a 3.5-year period where active listings were below 90. So between October 2012 and February 2016, Manhattan Beach never went above 90 listings for 3.5 years. So while there is an inventory squeeze in Manhattan Beach, it's on the lower levels. If you were a buyer looking between October 2012 and February 2016, you never saw inventory levels rise above 90. So we've seen it much worse in Manhattan Beach. But, maybe between the Redondo and Hermosa Beach squeeze and still far, or, not keeping pace. If your pacemaker is low inventory, not keeping pace with the very low inventory of Palos Verdes. But all in all, the South Bay markets I like to cover. There is an inventory squeeze outside of Hermosa Beach. Palos Verdes is seeing record low inventory. Redondo Beach next, and Manhattan Beach relatively low.